It's been 2 years. 2 years since she walked away and took my heart with her. Claire didn't slam the door. She didn't yell. There were no dramatic tears, no accusations, no pleas. Just 5 words I replayed every night since. It's not you, it's me. And then she was gone. I remember standing in the doorway of my apartment, frozen, holding onto her perfume like it was oxygen. Her scarf was still on the chair. The coffee she didn't finish was still warm. But Claire had vanished like a chapter torn out of a book, leaving the rest of the pages meaningless. I didn't see it coming. We had plans, big ones. A shared apartment in Brooklyn. Sunday morning pancakes. Maybe a dog. Maybe more. We'd whisper silly promises under the covers and laugh like nothing could touch us. We were that couple. Or at least, I thought we were. But Claire, she was a mystery I never got to solve. Now, I live in a luxury high-rise downtown. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Marble countertops. The kind of place Claire would have picked out furniture for with that glint in her eye and a dozen Pinterest tabs open. I've got the job, the money, the view. People say I've made it, but no one asks if I'm happy. I eat dinner alone. I wake up to silence. My phone buzzes with messages from people who want things from me, not people who miss me. Every now and then, someone asks me why I never date anymore. I just shrug. I tell them I'm busy, focused on work. But the truth? No one feels like Claire. No one looks at me the way she did. Like I was both the question and the answer. Like just being near me made her feel safe. And me, being near her, felt like home. The kind of home that doesn't have 4 walls, but a heartbeat. I still remember one night. We were sitting on the rooftop of her old building. It was late, cold. She was wrapped in my jacket, her head on my shoulder. We didn't say much. Just stare at the stars, breathing in sync. And then she whispered, "Promise me you'll never forget this moment." I didn't know it then, but maybe she already knew she was going to leave. Maybe that was her way of saying goodbye, wrapped in stardust and silence. I promised, and I haven't. Sometimes I think I see her, a flash of a familiar silhouette in a crowd, a laugh in a cafe that sounds too much like hers. My heart always skips, just for a second, but it's never her. She disappeared without a trace, changed her number, deleted her social media. No goodbyes, no closure, just that final line. It's not you, it's me. That's the thing about heartbreak no one tells you. It doesn't happen all at once. It's not a single explosion. It's slow, quiet, a drip in the faucet, a light that flickers for weeks before going out. I've tried to move on, tried to go on dates, tried to laugh again, tried to believe someone else could take her place. But no one can stand in the same space she left behind. Maybe I'm scared. Scared that if I let someone else in, the last pieces of her will finally fade away. And yet, part of me still waits, still hopes, still wonders. What if she had a reason? What if there's more to the story than what she told me? What if she's out there hurting just as much? Every night, before I turn off the lights, I find myself whispering into the dark, "Claire, where did you go?" And every night, the silence answers back. But something feels different lately, like the air's changed, like the past isn't as far away as I thought. I don't know why, but a part of me, maybe the foolish, broken part, feels like she's coming back. And if she does, I don't know whether I'll fall apart or finally breathe again. I thought I had made peace with the silence, the kind that follows after a storm flattens everything you once knew. For 2 years, I buried her memory under work, routine, and anything else that didn't wear her name. I told myself she was a closed chapter, that I'd moved on. But peace is a fragile thing, and it shattered the second I saw her name in the company email. Claire Morgan, new project manager, starting Monday. My breath caught in my throat. My heart slammed against my ribs like it was trying to break out of my chest. I stared at the screen, rereading the line, hoping my eyes were playing tricks on me. They weren't. She was back, in my world. Monday came faster than I was ready for. The office buzzed with casual conversation. Keyboards clacking, coffee brewing, Everything normal, except for me. I was a storm underneath a calm face. I didn't see her at first, and then I did. She walked in like a painting in motion, composed, sharp, radiant. Her hair was shorter now, just brushing her shoulders. Her clothes, sleek, professional, tailored like armor. She carried herself like a woman who had learned to build walls. And yet, God, she was still Claire. The same smile, though it didn't reach her eyes. The same posture, though something that said, "Don't come too close." She was talking to someone from HR when she saw me. Her expression froze for half a second. Just a flicker, then she smiled. Polite, controlled, like I was an old acquaintance she barely remembered. I stood up. "Claire," I said, "try not to sound like my entire past just walked through the door." "Ethan," she replied. "Cool, civil." Her eyes scanned my face like she was studying a stranger. "I didn't know you were still here." "Still here?" I almost laughed. "I never left." "You did," but I swallowed the words. "Yeah, I stayed." My voice was dry. Too dry. She nodded. That's all. Just nodded. Then excused herself and walked away. And just like that, she was real again. Not a memory. Not a dream I kept reliving at 3 a.m. She was here, breathing the same air, working 3 floors down. Days passed. I tried not to notice her. But how do you ignore the one person your heart still writes poetry about? Every time she passed by my desk, I felt it, the tension, like unfinished sentences stretching between us. She avoided me when she could, and when we did talk, briefly, professionally, it was always surface level. No cracks, no warmth, just business. But one day, fate had other plans. The department was short on hands for a new cross-team project. Guess who got assigned together? We sat across a conference table, pretending not to feel the weight of the past pressed between us. I watched her work, methodical, precise, brilliant as ever, but colder now, like she spent the last 2 years learning how to be untouchable. At one point, she looked up and caught me staring. Her voice was low. "Is there something you need, Ethan?" I hesitated. "No, just, it's weird seeing you here again." She closed her laptop a little too quickly. "I'm not here for the past, Ethan. I'm here to work. That's all." That hit harder than I expected. "Right," I said, looking down at the notes in front of me. "Of course." The silence between us stretched wide, echoing with everything we weren't saying. Later that day, I found myself in the break room, alone, until she walked in. She reached for the coffee pot, just as I did. Our hands brushed. She pulled away fast, like my touch burned. "Sorry," she said. "It's okay." I searched her face. "Claire, are we really going to pretend like we were never?" She cut me off with a quiet shake of her head. "Please don't." Her voice cracked just a little, and for a second, I saw her, the real her, beneath the cool exterior. The girl who once laid next to me on rooftops talking about the stars. The woman who used to look at me like I was her whole world. But then she blinked and the wall went back up. "I'm different now," she said. "And I'm not here for whatever this is." Then she walked out, leaving her half-filled cup behind. And I stood there, staring at the door, wondering what had broken inside her. Or maybe what I had broken. I should have let her go again. But my heart had already started writing the next chapter. Even if she wasn't back for me, I had to know why she came back at all. I wasn't ready for this. When the agency said we'd be collaborating on the Carter and Bloom campaign, I laughed. Thought it was a sick joke. I even asked for a reassignment. But fate, fickle as ever, didn't care what I wanted. So here I was, sitting across from Claire Madison, the woman who used to fall asleep on my chest, whispering dreams, now acting like I didn't exist. She looked the same, yet different. Her hair was a little shorter, her smile a little less ready. But those eyes, hazel with golden flecks, still held storms I once knew how to calm. Today, they didn't even meet mine. "We'll need 2 mock-ups by Friday," she said, flipping through a stack of proposals without once looking up. Her voice was clipped cold, efficient, like she'd trained herself to forget how she once said my name, like it was a promise. I nodded, unsure if I was breathing normally. I can handle the creative direction. You take the branding copy. Fine. One word. No warmth. It was like talking to a stranger wearing the face of someone I used to love. I tried. God, I tried. Claire, we don't have to. We're here to work, Ethan. That's it. That shut me up. Not because I agreed, but because I saw her hand tremble ever so slightly as she adjusted her pen. And that tiny flicker of emotion undid me more than any outburst could have. I swallowed the 1,000 questions sitting on my tongue. Why did you leave? Why didn't you say goodbye? Why does it still hurt? Flashback. We were 21, broke, starry-eyed, and reckless with hope. She'd sneak into my dorm after midnight with cold pizza and warm eyes. We used to sit on my bed, headphones split between us, sketching ideas for an ad agency we swore we'd open someday. Madison and Gray, tell your story, sell your dream. That was her slogan. Our first kiss wasn't some perfect movie moment. It happened during a thunderstorm, just after we'd argued about which cereal mascot was more iconic. She said Tony the Tiger. I said the Trix Rabbit. We were laughing, soaked in the rain, and suddenly her lips were on mine, soft and trembling, tasting like mint and wild daring. That night, she whispered, "Promise me we'll build something beautiful." "I promise," I said, pulling her closer. But beautiful things can break, especially when one half disappears without warning. Back to now. Claire stood up to leave, papers gathered like a shield between us. "I'll email my revisions." My heart fought against every rational bone in my body. "Claire, please, just look at me." She paused. For a second, she didn't move. Then, slowly, she lifted her gaze. Our eyes met, and there it was. Pain, regret, something still alive behind the cold facade. Pretending we're strangers hurts more than anything. I whispered. Her lips parted, maybe to reply, maybe to run. I'll never know, because the conference room door opened, and someone walked in with a box of print samples, shattering the fragile moment. Claire turned away. She left before I could say another word. I sat down, pressing my palms to my eyes, as memories rushed in like a flood. The coffee runs, the stolen glances, her hand in mine during final exams, the way she used to laugh with her whole body, like nothing else mattered. I still don't know why she walked away. No letter, no explanation, just silence. And now she's back, sitting across from me like nothing ever happened. How do you fight for someone who's already given up on you? Maybe you don't. Maybe you just show up every day, hoping that someday they'll look at you and remember how it felt to be loved without condition. And maybe, just maybe, they'll want that again. I don't know when it started again. Maybe it was the way Claire always brought an extra coffee without asking, just how I liked it. 2 sugars, no cream. Or maybe it was the way her laughter sounded different when we were the only 2 left in the office after hours. Softer, almost like it belonged to an earlier time we never got to finish. The late nights became more frequent. Deadlines, pitches, last-minute revisions. Excuses, really. If we were being honest, neither of us needed to stay that late. But we did. One night, around midnight, I looked up from my laptop to find her sitting on the window ledge, barefoot, hugging her knees, looking out at the city lights like they held all the answers. I watched her for a long time before she noticed. "What?" she asked, smiling. I shrugged. "Nothing. Just you look peaceful." She smirked. "That's new." It was small moments like that. The gentle teasing. The pauses between words that used to scare me now felt comforting. Like silence meant we were safe again. The first time she touched my hand, just lightly, while passing a pen across the table, it felt like a spark jumped through my veins. She must have felt it too because she paused, her fingers resting on mine just a beat longer than necessary. We didn't speak about it, but the next night, when I reached over her shoulder to grab a folder, and our cheeks nearly brushed, she didn't pull away. She looked up at me with that look, the one she used to give me when we were younger. when life was simpler and love didn't feel so risky. You still do that, she said softly. Do what? Lean in too close when you want something. I laughed. Some habits don't change. Some do, she whispered, her eyes searching mine, but she didn't say which ones. It wasn't just me. People noticed. Janine, the intern, gave us this knowing smirk one morning when we walked in 5 minutes apart, but with the exact same breakfast sandwiches. Mike from accounting joked during lunch. So, you two back to finishing each other's sentences again? Claire just smiled and rolled her eyes, but I saw the way her cheeks flushed. Something was happening. Something neither of us wanted to name out loud. One evening, she really opened up. We were sitting side by side on the floor, backs against a filing cabinet, half-eaten pizza between us. The office was empty except for the soft hum of the cleaning crew vacuuming a few rooms away. She looked tired, but in that way you look when you finally feel safe enough to let your guard down. I didn't think I'd come back here, she said, staring at the crust in her hand like it held a memory. To the city? I asked, to this version of myself. I stayed quiet, let her speak. I spent the past 2 years trying to be someone new, someone who didn't need familiar things. But everywhere I went, I saw versions of us. In coffee shops, at airports, random songs playing in stores. It's like the universe wouldn't let me forget. I felt my throat tighten. Did you want to forget? She looked at me, and for the first time in weeks, there was no wall in her eyes. No, I just didn't know if remembering was still allowed. A long silence hung between us. Then I said quietly, old feelings don't fade. They wait. She didn't answer, but she leaned her head on my shoulder, and that told me everything. Still, there was something she wasn't saying. Sometimes in the middle of a story or a laugh, her face would shift just for a second, like a shadow passing through sunlight. She'd glance away, fidget with her ring, or suddenly change the subject. There were moments I wanted to ask, what happened when you were gone? What's still holding you back? But I didn't. Not yet. I was afraid that asking might break whatever fragile thing we were building again. Instead, I held space. I listened. I waited. Because love, I was learning, wasn't always about chasing answers. Sometimes it was about patience. About letting someone arrive at you in their own time. And even though the past still sat quietly between us, the present started to feel full again. She laughed at my dumb jokes like she used to. She let me walk her to her car every night. Even though her parking spot was only 20 feet from the door, she started sending me songs again, just links with no context. But I knew what they meant. And sometimes, when she thought I wasn't looking, she stared at me like I was still the only home she'd ever known. I could feel it. We were both leaning in again, but neither of us had jumped. Not yet. And I couldn't help but wonder, what would it take to make her fall this time? Because I was already standing at the edge, hoping she'd take my hand. I didn't expect her to show up like that. Rain-drenched, shivering, eyes red like she hadn't slept in days. Claire stood in my doorway like a ghost from a life I'd buried. One I'd never stopped mourning. We didn't speak at first. The silence between us stretched like the years we lost. I should have slammed the door. I should have turned away. But I didn't. I couldn't. Not when the look on her face screamed of something deeper. Something that had been rotting inside her. So I stepped aside. She walked in slowly, like she wasn't sure she belonged anymore. Her arms were wrapped around her stomach, clutching herself like the world had gone cold, and she didn't know how to feel warm again. My living room hadn't changed much, but we had. We sat across from each other, me on the edge of the couch, her on an armchair, just breathing the same air again for the first time in 2 years. The clock ticked too loud. The rain outside fell too soft, and I couldn't take it anymore. Why, Claire? I asked, my voice cracking before I could hold it together. Why did you leave like that? No goodbye, no note, nothing. She looked at me like I'd asked the question she'd been dreading the most. Her fingers fidgeted with the hem of her sleeve. She opened her mouth, then shut it like the words were blades. And then finally she whispered, I thought I was dying. Everything inside me froze. She kept going before I could even process it. 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with a rare blood disorder. They didn't know if I'd make it. The treatments were brutal. The side effects worse. I didn't want you to watch me wither away. I didn't want your love to turn into pity. My heart dropped. My chest ached with strange combination of rage and sorrow. You didn't even give me the choice, Claire. I said, my voice breaking. You just disappeared. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks now. I was scared, Ethan. I was so damn scared and selfish. I thought I was saving you from watching me fade. I thought you'd move on, find someone whole. But I didn't die. I fought. I got better. And then I was left with the guilt and no idea how to come back. I stared at her, trying to reconcile the truth with the pain I'd carried for so long. All those nights I blamed myself, wondering what I did wrong. The endless replay of our last conversation. Her saying she loved me more than anything, then vanishing like it meant nothing. I mourned you. I whispered, my voice hoarse. I thought you were gone forever. I tore myself apart, thinking I did something to push you away. She wiped her cheeks, but the tears kept coming. I know. I'm sorry. I hated myself every day for what I did to you. But I couldn't bear the thought of you seeing me like that. Pale, sick, weak. You always looked at me like I was your world. I didn't want to see that look change. My throat tightened. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to scream. But seeing her here, alive, trembling, broken, and trying to piece herself back together in front of me, I couldn't hate her. I reached for her hand. She flinched at first, then let me take it. You never gave me the chance to love you through it. I said softly, you stole that from me. She nodded, barely able to hold my gaze. I did, and I don't expect you to forgive me. I needed you to know the truth. I needed you to hear it from me. We sat in silence again, but this time it wasn't sharp. It was thick with unspoken memories, with pain, with something that felt dangerously close to hope. Her hand was cold in mine, but familiar. Are you okay now? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She nodded slowly. Physically, yes. Emotionally, I don't know. I've been carrying this secret like a weight, and I couldn't breathe anymore. I couldn't stay away. I stared at her, really looked at her for the first time since she walked in. The shadows under her eyes, the small tremble in her chin. She was still Claire, but she wasn't. Life had rewritten her. And somehow, despite everything, I still loved her. I don't know where we go from here. I said honestly, but I'm glad you came back. She looked up, her eyes glistening. Even if it's too late? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I stood and pulled her into my arms. She melted into me like she'd been waiting for this moment just as long as I had. Her breath hitched against my shoulder. Mine did too. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet, but it was something. As I held her, I felt the weight she'd been carrying, and mine too. Maybe we could set them down. Maybe not. But for the first time in 2 years, it felt like we could start again, even if we had to rebuild from the ruins. Outside, the rain stopped. Inside, something fragile and beautiful had just begun to breathe again. I never thought I'd be here again, with her, Claire, and I started spending time together again. It wasn't planned. It wasn't forced. It just happened. It started with coffee, then dinner, then long walks that stretched past midnight. And each moment felt like something out of life I'd almost forgotten. One filled with quiet smiles, shared glances, the way she always tucked her hair behind her ear when she was nervous. I remembered it all like it was yesterday. The way her laugh would rise just a second before mine. The way she'd tease me about the way I chewed gum too loud. God, even that had started to feel romantic. But things were different now. There was a weight in the air. One we both tried to pretend wasn't there. We talked about everything except us. She'd tell me about her art, the new gallery downtown, the stray cat that had started sleeping on her porch. I'd talk about my job, my sister's wedding, how I couldn't find good coffee since that one cafe shut down. We danced around the truth like it was a flame we couldn't touch. Warm, bright, but dangerous. One night, we sat on the hood of my car, parked just outside the city limits, where the sky still had stars. Claire hugged her knees to her chest, her head tilted back. "I forgot how quiet it gets out here," she said softly. I nodded, watching the way the moonlight traced her cheekbones. "I used to bring you out here when you were stressed." She smiled, that kind of sad smile that hides more than it shows. "Yeah, and you'd always bring peanut M&Ms. You said sugar solved everything." "It kind of does." I laughed, reaching into my coat pocket. Speaking of, I pulled out a small pack and handed it to her. She blinked, surprised, then burst into laughter. "Ethan, no, you didn't." "I did. Some traditions deserve to survive." She opened it and tossed a few into her mouth, chewing quietly. Then her voice dropped. "You're making this hard." I turned toward her. "What do you mean?" "This," she said, motioning between us. "The dinners, the old jokes, the way you still know exactly how to make me smile. It feels like the past is knocking on the door, and I keep pretending I don't hear it." I stared at her. "Claire." "No." She held up her hand. "Don't say anything yet. I need to get this out." I waited. She took a breath. "I'm not who I was. I've made mistakes. Some I'm still trying to forgive myself for. And you built a life without me. I don't want to come crashing back into it and ruin everything you've healed from." "You're not ruining anything," I said, voice firm. "But I might. What if I let you fall for me again? I can't give you what you need. What if I mess it up again?" Her voice cracked on that last word. I reached out, gently brushing her hand with mine. "You don't have to protect me from you. But I want to, because I love you too much to see you disappointed. I've seen what disappointment looks like on your face, Ethan. It broke me once. I won't let it happen again." I didn't know what to say. The part of me that had waited through years, through heartbreak, through all the what-ifs, wanted to scream, to beg, to hold her and never let go. But I could see it in her eyes. The fear, the doubt, the walls she spent years rebuilding around her heart. So I just nodded, slowly. "Okay," I said, even though nothing about it felt okay. "We'll take it slow." She blinked. "You're okay with that?" "No," I admitted, "but I'm okay with you. And if slow is what you need, I'll walk beside you one step at a time." For the first time that night, she reached for my hand, interlaced her fingers with mine. "I'm scared," she whispered. "So am I replied. "But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was full of unspoken words, of shared pain, of something gentle trying to be reborn. We sat there until the stars began to fade, and dawn started painting the sky in quiet gold. We were close, closer than we'd been in years, but not close enough. Not yet. And as the sun crept over the horizon, warming her face in soft light, I realized something that scared me more than anything else. I was falling for her all over again. And this time, I wasn't sure she'd let me catch her. I wasn't even supposed to be there. I had just finished a long day at the clinic, grabbing a quick coffee before heading home. The cafe was small, tucked between a bookstore and a florist. Claire used to love places like that, quiet, cozy, with soft jazz playing in the background and handwritten menus on the wall. And then I saw her. Claire. She was sitting by the window, her hair glowing in the afternoon light, a soft laugh escaping her lips. And across from her was him, tall, clean-cut, confident. He wore a white coat folded neatly over his chair. A doctor, of course. The kind of man you'd bring home to your parents. The kind of man who could promise stability and calm and perfectly mapped out futures. The kind of man who wasn't me. I froze. My heart dropped straight into my stomach. I should have looked away, walked out, left her to her happiness. But I didn't. Instead, I watched her smile, watched her eyes sparkle the way they used to with me, watched him reach across the table and brush a crumb from the corner of her lip, and watched her let him. Something inside me cracked. I hadn't even realized I was gripping my coffee cup so tightly until the heat bit into my skin. I forced myself to take a breath, then another, but nothing helped. I turned around and walked out, my chest burning. That night, I couldn't sleep. I laid in bed, staring at the ceiling, her laugh still echoing in my ears. I tried to tell myself she deserved to be happy, that I'd done the right thing stepping back when she asked me to, that I was respecting her space. But the truth? I was a coward. I let her go because I thought I wasn't enough, because I thought I'd mess it all up in the end, just like I always did, because I was scared of how much I loved her. But seeing her with someone else, really seeing it, was like being punched in the gut by the universe. And worse, knowing she had moved on, that maybe she didn't even think about me anymore. I remembered the way she used to grab my hand when we crossed the street, even when there were no cars. How she'd leave sticky notes in my books with cheesy quotes and tiny hearts. How her face looked at 2 a.m. when she couldn't sleep and just wanted to talk about everything and nothing. That wasn't something you just get over. Not for me. The next morning, I stood outside her apartment for 20 minutes. I didn't ring the bell. I couldn't. What would I say? Hey, Claire, I saw you with another guy and realized I still love you? No. I needed to be more than that. I needed to be someone worth fighting for. I needed to stop waiting for the perfect moment and make the moment. I started writing her a letter that night. Not a text, not a voicemail. A real letter. Pages of it. I told her everything. How I felt when she pulled away. How I hated myself for letting her go without a word. How I miss her in every quiet moment of my day. Her voice, her scent, the way she made me feel like I was home. And most of all, I told her that if she still had even a corner of her heart left for me, I'd be there. I'd wait. I'd fight. But I never sent the letter. Not yet, because part of me was still afraid it was too late. A week passed, and then I saw her again. This time, she was alone. She was walking through the park near my apartment. The same park we used to go to after work, just to breathe, to laugh, to talk. She had a scarf wrapped tight around her neck, and earbuds in, her eyes distant. And for the first time in days, she didn't look happy. She looked lost, just like me. I want to call out to her, run to her, hold her the way I used to, and tell her I never stopped loving her. But I didn't, because the truth was, I didn't know if she'd let me. So I just stood there, watching her fade into the crowd. And I made a silent promise to myself. I wouldn't let her go again. Not without a fight. Not this time. I didn't sleep the night before. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Claire, laughing in that oversized hoodie back in college. Her cheeks dusted pink from the cold, curled beside me under a sky full of stars and cheap fairy lights. That night was everything. That was us. Before life happened. Before regrets and silence filled the spaces we once danced in. I wanted her to remember that night. Not the pain, not the distance. Just us. So I planned it down to the smallest detail. I borrowed an old projector from a friend, bought the same ridiculous popcorn bucket she used to mock, and found the exact bean bags we used to drag onto the dorm roof. It wasn't perfect. We weren't 20 anymore, and this wasn't college, but it was honest, real, like my feelings. The park by the lake had always been her favorite escape. I got there hours early, stringing up lights between trees, laying down thick blankets, and scattering little notes, each with a memory of us. At the center of it all, I placed a small sign. You never stop being my always. When Claire arrived, she froze. She looked stunned, maybe a little unsure. Her fingers trembled slightly as she stepped forward, her eyes drinking in every detail. The fairy lights flickered against the tears welling up in her gaze. I remember this, she whispered, barely above a breath. I nodded. I do too. Every part of it. She picked up one of the notes. You still remember the night I tripped over my own shoelace and spilled soda all over you? I remember laughing so hard I nearly dropped the projector. I said, smiling. Her lip quivered. I didn't push. I let the silence wrap around us like a soft blanket, like it used to. She finally sat down, hugging her knees to her chest, looking at the blank screen ahead. I sat beside her, a careful distance between us. Then I reached for the remote and hit play. Our favorite movie flickered to life. Some old rom-com she used to mouth the words to. We didn't watch it so much as we let it play while we remembered who we once were. About halfway through, I turned to her. Claire, I began, voice barely steady. I need to say something. She turned slowly, eyes guarded. I still love you, I said. I never stopped. Her breath caught. Her lips parted like she wanted to respond, but no words came. So I kept going. I know I messed up. I know time has changed us. But every version of you, then now tomorrow, is still the only home I've ever wanted. Her face crumpled. I thought maybe if I stayed away, it would hurt less. I added, but the truth is, not having you in my life hurts more than anything else ever could. Claire looked away, blinking fast. You don't get it. I do, I said gently. I get that you're scared. I get that it's messy. But I'm not asking for perfect, Claire. I'm asking for a chance to walk with you, even if we stumble. Her voice cracked. I love you too, Ethan. I do. God, I do. But I don't want to be your burden. My heart twisted. You've never been a burden, I said, shaking my head. You've been my reason. The reason I kept going when everything else felt wrong. Tears slid down her cheeks. She tried to hide them, but I reached out, brushing them gently away. I'm not here to fix the past, I whispered. I'm here because I can't imagine a future without you. She leaned into my touch, but didn't close the distance. I'm scared, she admitted, voice raw. Scared I'll break your heart again. Scared that I'll need too much from you. I took her hands, holding them with quiet conviction. Then let's be scared together. Claire looked at me like I was sunlight and storm all at once. I could see her walls shaking, her breath uneven, her heart reaching. The movie ended. The stars blinked overhead. The lights around us twinkled like they were waiting too. I don't have all the answers, I said softly, but I do know this. I've loved you every day, even when I couldn't say it. And I'll keep loving you, even if you can't say it back yet. She closed her eyes. Her shoulders trembled. Then she whispered, I don't want to lose you again. You won't, I promised. And in that still moment, she leaned in, resting her forehead against mine. We didn't kiss. We didn't need to. It was something deeper, something fragile and warm. A second chance, breathing between us. But just as I felt her hand tighten around mine, her phone buzzed sharply beside us. She glanced at the screen, and everything in her face changed. Fear, panic, regret. She stood up suddenly, eyes wild, voice shaky. I have to go. Claire, wait. But she was already walking away, back into the dark, and I was left staring at the movie screen, heart pounding, wondering what she was running from and if she'd ever come back. The storm had caught me completely off guard. 1 minute I was calm, rehearsing the words I'd been scared to say for weeks, and the next, rain was drenching me from head to toe. My hair stuck to my face, clothes clinging to my skin like a second layer I couldn't shake off. But somehow, the rain felt cleansing, like it was washing away every doubt, every fear, every moment I'd spent pushing him away. I stood outside Ethan's apartment building, my heart pounding so loud I was sure he could hear it through the walls. I didn't want to knock. I wanted to burst in, raw and vulnerable, with all my walls crumbling, because after everything, I couldn't pretend anymore. Not to him, not to myself. The door swung open before I could even raise my hand. Ethan stood there, soaked too, but calm. His eyes widened for a second before softening with something that looked like hope. Or maybe it was relief. I swallowed hard. I didn't mean to just show up like this, I said, voice trembling. I just needed to see you, to talk. He stepped aside wordlessly, and I slipped inside, dripping water onto his clean floors. The warm air hit my chilled skin, and I shivered, but not from the cold, from the way he was looking at me, like I was the most important thing he'd ever seen. I've been avoiding this, I admitted, pacing the small living room. Avoiding you because I was scared. Scared I'd mess it all up again. Scared that after everything, you'd see me as a burden. His face softened even more. Claire, you were never my burden. I stopped, turning toward him, eyes searching his. But I know what you saw. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes. I ran away when I should have stayed. I broke your trust. Ethan stepped closer, reaching out to brush a wet strand of hair from my face. His touch was gentle, grounding me in a way words never could. Maybe you don't deserve another chance. I whispered, my voice barely audible. Maybe I don't deserve you. His gaze locked with mine, steady, unwavering. That's not for you to decide. A breath caught in my throat. The walls I'd built around my heart trembled. Cracks finally appearing where years of fear had kept them sealed tight. I can't imagine my life without you. I confess, the words spilling out raw and real, even when I tried to convince myself I could. Ethan's lips curled into a soft, hopeful smile. You don't have to imagine it anymore. The space between us disappeared as he pulled me close, his hands cradling my face like I was the only thing that mattered. Our lips met, hesitant at first, testing the waters of fragile hope, then deeper, urgent, like we were making up for all the time lost. My heart pounded so fiercely I was sure he could feel it too, fast and messy and desperate. But beneath the chaos was a flicker of something steady, something that whispered this wasn't just a fleeting moment. It was a beginning. When we finally pulled apart, breathless and soaked, his forehead rested against mine. You're my reason, Claire, he said softly. Not a burden. Never. Tears mixed with the rain still dripping down my cheeks. For the first time in so long, I believed it. I believed in us. But as much as my heart wanted to stay in that moment forever, a small voice inside warned me that the road ahead wouldn't be easy. We'd broken too much, lost too much. Still, for the first time, I felt ready to fight for what we had. Because sometimes love is about breaking down walls, no matter how scared you are. And maybe, just maybe, this time we could build something stronger out of the ruins. What will happen when the past comes knocking again? Can we truly heal, or is our love still fragile? 6 months have passed since everything changed. And I still remember that night, when the walls I'd built around my heart crumbled, and he waited patiently through the ruins of my past, ready to catch me if I ever fell again. Now, standing beside Ethan at the edge of the garden bursting with flowers, I feel the weight of those months like a warm blanket wrapped around my soul. The late afternoon sun filters through the trees, casting golden light on his face. His smile, that same gentle, unshakable smile, makes my heart flutter even after all we've been through. We're here at our friend Jessica's wedding, surrounded by laughter, music, and endless joy. It feels like the kind of moment we used to only dream about. Two people finding peace in each other's arms, finally free to be who they really are. I glance at Ethan. He's dressed in a navy suit, the crisp white shirt perfectly pressed. But it's the way his eyes catch mine that holds me, like a secret language only we understand. It's strange how love works, how it can break you apart, then somehow put you back together, piece by piece, stronger than before. After the ceremony, as we mingle with friends, someone, a curious woman with sparkling eyes, leans in and asks the question I never expected to answer out loud. How did you two meet? I pause for a moment, heart pounding. I think of every moment, every tear, every fight, every silent hour Ethan spent waiting for me to come home from the shadows. A soft smile curves my lips. He was the one who never stopped waiting for me. I say, my voice steady but full of feeling. There's something about those words that feels like the truth I want to live by forever. Because yes, I left once. I walked away when I was afraid. But Ethan stayed. And this time, I'm not going anywhere. 6 months ago, I was lost, afraid that love like ours could only be a beautiful mistake. But now, with each day we build together, I see a future I never dared imagine before. One where I can breathe freely, and where hope blooms like the flowers in this garden. Since then, I've found a new purpose. Volunteering with cancer survivors has become my lifeline. Their strength and courage remind me that life is fragile but worth fighting for, and love is the greatest reason to keep going. Every smile I share with them, every story I hear, is a gift that grounds me. Ethan hasn't just been my anchor. He's become a beacon, inspired by our journey. He launched a foundation in my name, a place dedicated to supporting survivors and their families. I still remember the day he told me. He looked at me with that fierce determination, saying, "Your strength saved me. Now it's time we save others." And I believe him. More than anything, there's magic in what we created together. Not the kind that happens overnight. It's slow, patient, real, like the way the sun rises every morning, lighting up the darkest skies. As the music swells and couples sway around us, I reach for Ethan's hand. His fingers close around mine with a tenderness that never fades. "Do you remember what you said the first time we met?" I asked quietly. He laughed softly, eyes sparkling. "That you were trouble I couldn't resist." I laughed too, feeling a happiness that's both new and familiar. "Well, you were right." We stand there, hands entwined, heartbeats sinking like a quiet promise. Love that leaves can still find its way back. And sometimes the second chance is even better than the first. "She left me once," Ethan murmurs, his voice thick with emotion. "But this time she stayed." And as I look up at him, I know it's true. Because sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about perfect beginnings or flawless endings. They're about finding each other again, even when the world tries to pull you apart. This is our beginning. Slow, open, and beautiful. A life rebuilt with patience, forgiveness, and endless hope. And I'm ready to live it with him, one heartbeat at a time.